I was skiing when something went terribly wrong. I found myself trapped under the ice. It felt like forever. It's a primal fear, isn't it? That deep bone-chilling cold that seeps into your very core, stealing your breath, your strength, your will. But for me, the cold became something else entirely. It was a shroud, a protector, a silent accomplice in a journey to the very edge of what we understand as life. Sometimes I still feel it, that lingering chill, a whisper of a forgotten moment when the world turned white and my heart surrendered. I'm Anna Bågenholm, and this is the story of how ice took my life only to give it back. Before that fateful day in May 1999, my life felt like a carefully constructed, exhilarating descent down a pristine, snow-covered slope. I was 29 years old, in the prime of my medical training, chasing a dream that had consumed me for years, to become an orthopedic surgeon. The precision, the ability to mend, to restore function, to bring people back from the brink of physical limitation, it resonated deeply with me. It was a challenging path, demanding long hours and unwavering dedication, but I thrived on it. My residency had brought me to Narvik, Norway, in May of 1998. This wasn't just a geographical move, it was an embrace of a lifestyle. The crisp, clean air, the dramatic fjords carving through ancient mountains, and of course, the snow. Oh, the snow skiing wasn't just a hobby for me. It was a passion, a release, a form of meditation. After long, intense shifts at the Narvik hospital, there was nothing I loved more than strapping on my skis and heading out to the mountains surrounding the town. I was an expert skier, confident in my abilities, comfortable pushing the boundaries, always seeking that perfect line down a steep, untouched mountainside. The speed, the wind whipping past my ears, the feeling of absolute freedom. As I carved through fresh powder, it was my sanctuary. My colleagues became my second family in Narvik. On May 20th, 1999, the day that would forever redefine my existence, I was out with two of them, Marie Falkenberg and Torvind Nestheim. Torvind in particular was more than just a colleague, he was my partner. We were out enjoying a beautiful spring day, the snow still abundant even as May drew to a close. The mountains beckoned, offering a final taste of winter's majesty. We were planning to celebrate our mentor Yngve Jones's retirement later that day. It was supposed to be a day of joy, of shared camaraderie, of doing what we loved in a place we cherished. We ventured off-piste, seeking out the thrill of untouched snow, a common practice for us seasoned skiers. I remember the exhilarating rush as I began my descent down a familiar steep mountainside, a route I'd taken many times before, a route that felt as familiar as my own heartbeat. The sun glinted off the snow, the air was sharp and invigorating, and for a few blissful moments the world was perfect. My skis felt like extensions of my will, gliding effortlessly, or so I thought. There was no warning, no subtle shift in the snow's texture, no telltale tremor of ice beneath. Just a sudden, shocking loss of control. One moment I was flying, the next I was plummeting. It was as if the mountain itself had reached out and snatched me, pulling me into a chaotic tumble. My skis tangled, and I fell head first, not onto soft snow, but onto a deceptively solid-looking layer of ice, covering a frozen stream right near a roaring waterfall. The impact was jarring, a sickening thud that echoed through my body. The ice, which I later learned was a daunting 20 centimeters thick, shattered beneath me. It wasn't a clean break, but a jagged, tearing rupture. My head and torso plunged into the water, a shock of icy cold that stole my breath and squeezed my lungs. The meltwater, like a predatory current, immediately began to fill my clothes, turning them into heavy, suffocating anchors. The world inverted. I was upside down, my skis and feet, the only parts of me still above the treacherous surface. It was a macabre sight, I imagined later, just two skis pointing skyward, a silent testament to a life rapidly sinking beneath the ice. Marie and Torvind were there in an instant, their shouts muffled by the rushing water and the pounding of my own terror. They grabbed my skis, holding on with desperate strength, trying to prevent me from being pulled deeper, swallowed whole by the frozen grip. They pulled, they strained their faces, contorted with effort, but the ice was too thick, too unyielding. I was trapped, wedged between the unforgiving ice and unseen rocks below. This wasn't just a fall, it was an entanglement, a living burial in a liquid tomb. The initial shock was immediate, a full-body assault. My breath caught in my throat, a gasp that was more of a choke as the frigid water engulfed me. My muscles screamed, contracting violently against the overwhelming cold. I thrashed, I struggled every fiber of my being, fighting against the suffocating embrace of the meltwater. Panic, raw and visceral, threatened to consume me. But somewhere even amidst the chaos, my medical training kicked in. I knew I needed air. I desperately needed air. Through sheer instinct, I managed to find it, a small, miraculous air pocket trapped between the ice and the water. It was a tiny bubble of hope in a sea of despair. I clung to it, my face pressed against the rough underside of the ice, gulping shallow, freezing breaths. This air pocket, no bigger than a small void, became my temporary lifeline, allowing me to remain conscious for 40 agonizing minutes. 40 minutes of being suspended upside down, feeling the relentless cold draining the warmth from my body, minute by agonizing minute. The fight finally left me. My muscles, once taut with resistance, slackened. My grip on consciousness slipped away like ice melting in a warm hand. At the 40-minute mark, a profound stillness descended. My body went limp, a dead weight in the freezing water. My heart, which had been pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, faltered, then silenced. My blood, thick and cold, ceased its circulation. My lungs, which had been fighting for every meager breath, stilled. My pupils, I later learned, were fully dilated, a classic sign of death. I was in every clinical sense gone. My consciousness, my being, simply extinguished. There was no pain, no fear, no struggle left. Just nothing. A profound, absolute cessation. 80 minutes I had been trapped in that icy hell. 40 minutes of fight, then 40 minutes of an eerie, encroaching oblivion. I was clinically dead. This was the turning point. This was the moment I ceased to exist. What does it feel like to die? For me, there was no dramatic light at the end of a tunnel, no ethereal figures, no grand review of my life. There was only absence, a complete, unyielding void. One moment, the fading awareness of cold and effort, the next, nothing. I don't remember anything about the accident or the 40 minutes of unconsciousness that followed, and in retrospect, I think that's truly a blessing. The terror, the cold, the knowledge of my own demise, to have no memory of that final descent into oblivion is a mercy. When my colleagues in the rescue team finally pulled me from the water at 19:40, an hour and 20 minutes after I fell, I was, as Dr. Mads Gilbert later described, ashen, flaxen white, wet, ice cold, and absolutely dead. My body temperature had plummeted to an astonishing 13.7 degrees Celsius, 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit. This was at the time the lowest survived body temperature ever recorded in an adult with accidental hypothermia. My ECG was a flat line, like you could have drawn it with a ruler, no signs of life whatsoever. I was beyond clinical death. Yet despite all evidence, I was also miraculously not truly dead. The secret lay in the very thing that had tried to kill me, the extreme cold. It wasn't a supernatural phenomenon that saved me, but a complex, life-preserving physiological dance that my body orchestrated in its final moments of consciousness. As a doctor, I've since come to understand the scientific marvel that transpired within me. My body didn't just succumb to the cold, it adapted. My body cooled down completely before my heart stopped. This was the critical factor. If my heart had stopped first, if my brain had been starved of oxygen for even a few minutes at normal body temperature, the damage would have been irreversible. But because my brain was already so profoundly cold when circulatory arrest occurred, its need for oxygen was almost non-existent. It was, in essence, flash frozen into a state of suspended animation, a dormant mode where the continuous cellular damage from lack of circulation was postponed. While I was clinically dead, my friends Marie and Torvind, both doctors themselves, immediately began cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. This sustained vigorous CPR continued by the helicopter emergency team during the hour-long flight to Tromsø University Hospital played a crucial role. Dr. Gilbert explained that good CPR can provide up to 30–40% of the blood circulation to the brain. In my unique circumstances, with my brain's oxygen needs at virtually zero, this modest circulation was enough to keep the vital cells alive to stave off the irreversible decay that usually follows cardiac arrest. I remember the anger sharp and bitter. I was very irritated when I realized they had saved me. I later confessed. I had faced death, and in my unconscious state, perhaps even accepted it. Now I was confronted with a future I couldn't bear to imagine, a life confined to a bed, without dignity, without purpose. I feared a meaningless existence. Why had they brought me back to this? But as the days turned into weeks in the intensive care unit, a slow, profound shift began within me. My kidneys and digestive system, which had initially failed, began to show signs of recovery. The paralysis, which had seemed so permanent, gradually began to recede. First a twitch, then a flicker, then a painful, effortful movement. With each small gain, hope, tentative, at first began to blossom. The initial rage gave way to an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "Now I am very happy to be alive and want to apologize," I said to my friends and saviors. This journey back from the brink wasn't just physical, it was deeply spiritual, though not in any conventional religious sense. It was a realization of the incredible resilience of the human body, the astonishing power of medical science, and the profound interconnectedness of human compassion. I had been at the absolute zero point of life and had been brought back by the collective will and skill of over 100 doctors and nurses who worked tirelessly for 9 hours straight. Dr. Mads Gilbert, my chief physician, and his team refused to give up. Their mantra, "Nobody is dead until warm and dead," wasn't just a medical guideline, it was a philosophy, a belief in the potential for life even in the face of apparent death. My personal realization was multifaceted. First, an immense appreciation for the fragile yet incredibly robust nature of life itself. To have been so close to the edge, to have experienced that profound nothingness, and then to be given a second chance, it was a gift beyond measure. Every breath, every movement, every sensation became a miracle. Second, a deep humility and respect for the medical profession. I was a doctor myself, studying to heal, but being on the other side as a patient, hovering between life and death, gave me an entirely new perspective. I saw firsthand the dedication, the tireless effort, the brilliant minds working in concert to defy the impossible. As a medical person, I truly found it amazing that I was alive. This experience stripped away any lingering ego, any sense of invincibility. It replaced it with a profound awe for the fragility of existence and the incredible power of human intervention. Finally, there was a spiritual insight into the meaning of "never give up." Torvind Nesheim. My partner encapsulated it perfectly. It's the 3 important things about emergency medicine, which is never give up, never give up, never give up, because there's always hope. This wasn't just about my personal survival, but about the spirit that drives those who stand at the threshold of life and death, fighting for every flicker of possibility. My survival became a testament to that unyielding spirit. It taught me that even when all hope seems lost, when the body gives up the human will, to save, to heal, to believe, can prevail. It reshaped my understanding of boundaries, showing me that the line between life and death is far more fluid than we often perceive. The road to recovery was long, arduous, and often frustrating. After spending 28 days in the intensive care unit in Tromsø, I was flown by ambulance helicopter back to Sweden to continue my rehabilitation closer to home. The initial paralysis slowly receded, but the full restoration of my bodily functions was a painstaking process. My kidneys and digestive system slowly regained their rhythm. The nerve damage caused by the extreme cold proved to be the most stubborn adversary. It manifested as minor symptoms in my hands and feet, a persistent reminder of my brush with death. This nerve injury, though seemingly minor, unfortunately meant that my dream of becoming an orthopedic surgeon, which required fine motor skills and precision, would have to be reevaluated. I had trouble writing and even cooking, and my beloved mountain bike became a challenge I couldn't yet conquer. Despite these limitations, my determination to return to a meaningful life was unwavering. In October 1999, just 5 months after the accident, I returned to work. On October 7th, 140 days after I fell through the ice, I had a deeply emotional reunion with the incredible doctors and nurses at Tromsø University Hospital who had literally brought me back from the dead. It was a moment of profound connection, a shared understanding of the miracle we had all witnessed. I was no longer just a patient. I was a living testament to their skill and dedication. My case, unique and extraordinary, quickly became a subject of medical fascination. It was discussed in the leading British medical journal, The Lancet, and found its way into medical textbooks. I became a subject of fiction, and my story was featured on CNN's Another Day Cheating Death in late 2009, hosted by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. I even had the opportunity to appear on the popular Norwegian talk show Skavlan with Dr. Gilbert. These platforms allowed me to share my story, hoping it would spread knowledge about hypothermia and its paradoxical life-saving potential. My journey of recovery wasn't just about regaining physical function. It was about adapting, about redefining my path. While orthopedic surgery was no longer an option, my passion for medicine remained undimmed. I returned to my profession, specializing in radiology. By late 2009, I was working as a radiologist at the very same hospital where my life had been saved. It felt incredibly meaningful to contribute to the healing environment that had given me a second chance. My story also had a tangible impact on medical practice. Dr. Gilbert noted that therapeutic hypothermia, a method used to save those in circulatory arrest by deliberately lowering their body temperature, became more frequent in Norwegian hospitals after my case gained fame. My experience provided irrefutable evidence of its potential. Before 1999, no patient had survived being frozen to death at Tromsø University Hospital. But between 1999 and 2013, 9 out of 24 patients with hypothermic cardiac arrest survived, a testament to the new approach. My low temperature, 13.7 degrees Celsius, stood as the lowest survived body temperature recorded in an adult. A child surpassed that record in 2010 with 13 degrees Celsius, but I still held the adult record. 14 years later, in 2013, I was working as a senior radiology consultant. And yes, I returned to skiing. I couldn't give it up. The mountains of North Norway still call to me, a constant reminder of the day I almost didn't come back. But now, when I carve down a slope, there's a different quality to it. It's not just about the thrill, it's about the profound appreciation for every single moment, for the simple fact of being alive. The nerve damage in my hands and feet remains a subtle phantom sensation, but it's a small price to pay for the immense gift I was given. I am a walking miracle, a living reminder of the incredible capacity for endurance the human body possesses. My life changed irrevocably, but in the most profound way possible. It deepened, it clarified, it became infinitely more precious. Sometimes I look back at the flat line on that ECG, the cold, lifeless body they pulled from the ice, and it feels like I'm looking at a different person, a distant memory. But it was me, and that journey, that profound immersion into death and back, has left an indelible mark on my soul. What have I learned from being warm and dead, and then miraculously alive? I've learned that life is incredibly fragile, yet astonishingly resilient. The human body is capable of wonders we scarcely comprehend, adapting in ways that defy our logical understanding. And the human spirit, both the one within us that fights for survival and the collective spirit of those who refuse to give up on us, is an immeasurable force. My story is a testament to perseverance, not just my own, but that of every single person who played a part in my rescue and recovery. It's a powerful reminder that in moments of crisis, when all seems lost, the commitment to never give up can indeed bridge the gap between life and death. It taught me that while we may think of death as a singular moment, it is often a process. And in that process, especially when cold intercedes, there can be a window, a chance, a glimmer of hope where none should exist. So when you face your own challenges, remember my story. Remember the ice, the stillness, the flat line, and remember the warmth that followed. Embrace every moment. Be grateful for every breath. And always, always remember the power of resilience, the miracle of medicine, and the unwavering belief in life, even when it seems to have slipped through your grasp. Because sometimes when you've been kissed by ice, you discover the profound warmth of being truly alive.